Hello, here we are, Math 1010, starting with our first lecture. Part 1 of uses and abuses of percentages. Percent means per hundred. Per commonly refers to division, and hundred, of course, refers to 100. So whenever we're talking about a percent, we're actually talking about a value that's been divided by 100. So if we want to convert a percentage to a fraction, then we want to drop the percent sign and divide by 100. And then as a fraction, we want to simplify if possible. So when we say divide by 100 and we want a fraction for an answer, we don't want to actually carry out the fraction so much as, or we don't want to carry out the division so much as just write it as a division. Now, there's another level to this. This is not an arithmetic class. This is just a review of one of the most common things that you're going to have to do in the course of this class, which is convert from percents to fractions to decimals without even thinking about it. So, as an introductory lesson, I thought it'd be a good idea to review those concepts. Now, because this is not an arithmetic class, and this is not really our goal in the class, it's to learn how to do this, I need to remind you that you're going to use technology. So we want to make sure you know how to do this actually on a calculator in case you need it. So if we want to do 23%, if we want to write that out, 23 divided by 100 as a fraction is just 23 over 100. Now, once we have a fraction, the question is, does that fraction reduce? If we pretend like that's a little bit more difficult numbers in front of us, we can use our calculator to find out whether or not a number reduces. Well, if we can get our calculator, we can. There we go. Turn the calculator on. Now we type it in, 23 divided by 100, and even the calculator makes it look like a fraction. To have it reduce the fraction, not just change it to a decimal, we hit the math key, and notice the first thing that's highlighted is to frac. That means, do you want your answer given as a fraction? We hit enter. So we're going to get 23 divided by 100 as a fraction, and if it reduces, the calculator will reduce it for us. So we hit enter again, and 23 over 100 is the final answer, so that's just it. It's the final answer. Now for 6%, 6% is 6 divided by 100. So if I do 6 divided by 100 on the calculator, and I want to know if that reduces, or I know it reduces, so I want to know what it reduces to, you hit the math key. Number 1 is highlighted, hit enter. So 6 over 100 as a fraction, hit enter again, is 3 over 50. So 3 over 50 would be 6% as a fraction. 14.5% would normally be an issue if we had to work the problem by hand. Now we don't have to work the problem by hand because we're way beyond that. So if we need 14.5 as a reduced fraction, we just type in 14.5 divided by 100. We want that as a reduced fraction, so math, give me the answer as a fraction, and enter one more time is 29 over 200. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing these by hand and saying 6 over 100, top and bottom, divide by 2 gives me 3 over 50. There's nothing wrong with knowing that 14.5 over 100 is not workable. You cannot have decimals and fractions and reduce at the same time. So multiply top and bottom by 10 so you don't have any decimals left. Then divide and divide and divide until you get to 29 over 200 as your final reduced answer. Just remember that this is not really the point of our problems. The our problems are going to have us switching freely between these things, and the quickest and easiest way that you can accomplish that is what you're going to want to do. To convert a percentage to a decimal, you drop the percent and move the decimal places 2 places to the left. Again, what that means is divide by 100. Anytime you go from a percentage to another form, you divide by 100. Dividing by 100 as a fraction just meant make a fraction with 100 on the bottom and reduce. Divide by 100 here, you can do it on your calculator just like you would do a normal math problem. 20 divided by 100, no fancy stuff, and it'll tell you 0.2. You can do 2%, 2 divided by 100 on your calculator, no extra keystrokes, and you'll get the answer of 0.02. What you want to be able to do, though, is remember that if you're dividing by 100, all you're doing is moving a decimal point. So 20% has a decimal point after the 20. Dividing by 100 moves the decimal point 2 places to the left. So if I go 2 places to the left, that lands the decimal point right in front of the 2. If I start with 2% and I go 2 places, I end up with a gap. Fill in the gap with a 0, and 2% is 0.02. If I go 2 places to the left for 6.3, I'm going to have an extra gap to fill in with the 0. And the 128. Start it here at the end of the 128, move it just 2 places, and the decimal ends up between the 1 and the 2. Now when you change a percent to a decimal, don't forget to remove the percent sign. It's a really big deal. 128 is not the same thing as 1.28, so make sure. If I go from a decimal to a percentage, we're going backwards, so we're multiplying by 100. Whenever we want to go to a percentage, we're actually multiplying by 100. Multiplying by 100, you can do it on a calculator. 0.45 times 100 would give you the 45. Add the percent sign. Multiplying by 100 just means moving the decimal point 2 places to the right, so that's the easier thing. That's where you want to get to if you're rusty. Move it 2 places to the right, that becomes a whole 3%. If you start with 2, 2 has the decimal point after it. If I move it to the right 2 places, that gives me room for 2 zeros. So 2 is 200%. And 0.063. Move it 2 places to the right and gives me 6.3%. Last but not least, how do we convert a fraction to a percentage? Well, we're going to end up multiplying by 100, but first we need a decimal. So we're going to divide first. Divide the fraction 1 divided by 4. Again, you've got your calculator. 1 divided by 4, get your answer as a decimal, and you get 0.25. Take that answer, multiply that by 100, or remember that multiplying by 100 means move the decimal point 2 places to the right, and you get 25%. 3 divided by 8. 3 divided by 8 on a calculator as a decimal is 0.375. Move the decimal point 2 places to the right, and you get 37.5%. 5/9, when you do that on a calculator, actually gives you an answer of 0.55555555555. I'm pretty consistent. Most of the time I ask you to round your answer to 3 decimal places if we're talking about percentages. In some instances I'll ask you to go to 4, but most of the time it's 3. I'll let you know when the special occasions are. So round that off, round it to 0.556, then multiply that value by 100, and we get 55.6%. The last 2 pages you have in your handout are practice problems. So the first set of practice is just moving back and forth between fraction and decimal and percent. Now would be a good time to stop and do just those problems before we go on to the next topic.